ways to help yourself. I will take orders.
Can I start with you? What did I just say?
So thanks everybody for coming out tonight. So I guess you got the email. That's great.
Email works.
A lot of you over the last years have been asking about what's going on in the book business in various ways and what's happening with various bookstores, some of which are still here and some of which aren't. And everything about ebooks and how that works. And we thought, we have lots of questions too. So we thought, why don't we have this community meeting where we can discuss everything about book culture. I mean, there are people here who work for distributors, work for publishers, who are authors. There are other booksellers here. There's media here that can answer various questions that we might have and that you might have. But what we have in common is that we're all passionate readers, and the book culture is changing. And we want to get a sense as to what that means to you, what that means to us in the future of things like indie bookstores. So, you know, I don't have some kind of lecture or anything to say about all those things. I don't know what you want to know or what you want to tell me. But if anybody, Amy, no. If anybody has a question about anything or a comment, I'd be interested. Yes?
I thought I would just share what inspired me to be here tonight. I was so delighted to receive your email, not delighted because it seems so relevant to independent bookstores having difficult times, you know, in these in this internet era. But I just looked forward to being in a gathering of fellow book lovers and fellow appreciators of words, ideas, and books who value independent bookstores. So I'm just really very moved to be here tonight, to look around.
Yeah.
I guess I'd want to get an update on what your situation is, and are we, you know, here because we're in an 11th hour situation, or what's the lay of the land?
That's a fair question. And we have plenty of time, right?
11:59.
Well, and maybe the other booksellers here can corroborate some of this, but it's been difficult, and especially more difficult now. And each bookstore is facing different challenges. You know, real estate is a big issue. It's something that's not often talked about, but it's a very real issue, and especially with the decline in the economy, doesn't mean that rents decline. So that's an issue for a lot of people, and us included. But not in this store, because we have a great landlord, you know, and so. But for a lot of stores, that's been a huge issue, and it's put them right out of business. The internet, whatever its effects are, difficult to measure, but it certainly had an effect, and everybody probably knows that, if not in their own lives, and people that they know. So, from my talking with a lot of booksellers this year, sales have dropped for everyone, including this store, especially after the big holiday season. And in January and February and March and continued. So that puts us on alert, and you know, it's not good. We aren't here to say we are closing Diesel or something like that, but we are here to kind of assess what is going on and what can be done and what should be done. Does that answer it?
Yeah.
So have you gotten anything from being able to sell ebooks through your site, or your store? Is anything happy with that?
Yes.
People are starting to do that. Yeah. And I believe it's important that we offer that as a service, but I don't think it's the smoothest service that it could be yet. I think the description is it's a little kinky. Or is that jinky?
Yeah. You're kinky.
Okay.
To be fair, though, to be fair, it was our system. I'm from Pegasus Books. I'm Amy, but for system of buying books and partnering with Google was created by our nonprofit trade association, and we're playing it there with, you know, Amazon and Google. So the cultures have been a little bit hard to mix, and so it's a big deal for us because the prices are good. We have price parity now online for most ebooks, which is an extraordinary opportunity, but it's not quite perfect yet.
Yeah, so there's been increased website traffic for print books as well as for ebooks, which is good. I mean, we've always, you know, we've had a website forever, and then we had the one that the trade organization came up with, that which has the more, you know, 2 million titles that you can order online. And so we have that whole back end, as they call it. And now they have the Google partnership as of December. And then there's also in the last year the sort of leveling of the playing field as to the prices of ebooks online. So that basically for the bulk of the publishers that you would be ordering from, it costs the same no matter where you buy it online for ebooks.
It's also device agnostic as opposed to the Kindle. You can use it on any, up to I think 5 devices through your Google account. So once you buy a book from one of our stores, you can access really on whatever you've got, including the Nook and other rival readers to the Kindle. The Kindle, unfortunately, is tied. It's proprietary to Amazon. And so the only books you can buy in any format through the Kindle are, I mean, I guess it's only one format, right?
Yeah.
A little Stalinist device.
You know, it's interesting though. I work at the library, and I think I saw that, I mean, you know, we've got online stuff that can be borrowed.
Yeah.
I think I read that at some point soon, Kindles will actually be able to use what we've got.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Which
that
might
is-
be worse for diesel.
Well, it could be better. I
Could be
mean,
better.
if it opens up so that the people who have Kindles that realize they can order from independent bookstores at the same price as Amazon can download it into their Kindle from us, if that evolves.
It's a half.
If they evolve,
I
that's a
see.
good thing. But otherwise, Kindle's trying to, I mean, Amazon is trying to pull out.
I guess part of the data I feel that's missing is, are people not, because library use is up, so are people not buying books because of the economic situation? Or are they not buying books from independent brick and mortar stores because they're going online? That's the data I feel like is a huge component to our success here.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't.
Yeah, I mean, where do we get that data?
I'd
I'll
love
tell
to
you,
know that.
as the economy's gotten worse, circulation at the library's gone up,
Yeah.
especially for, you know, nonfiction stuff to help with job hunting and that kind
Right.
of thing.
Yeah.
We do have people that talk to us about, you know, the fact that we have to charge full price in order to stay open, pay wages and things like that. And they will say, you know, someone today, she's retired and she just can't afford to pay full price, and there's so many other places that sell cheaper. And that was my tendency, was to say, well, why don't you just go to the library?
Yeah.
And then, you know, when you need to buy a book, come to us.
It all evens out over
Yeah,
time.
it does. So it is I think I'm not surprised that more people are using the library, and that makes me happy.
I'd say that the economy's actually changed my reading patterns. I use the Berkeley, the Cal Library,
Yeah.
which is obviously is a phenomenal resource.
Yeah.
But since 2008, with the crash and everyone feeling a little less change in their pocket, instead of reading books when they come out, which are impossible to get, I think, both at the Oakland Library and at the Cal Library, I've just changed my reading patterns. I'm reading books 2, 3, 5 years old that interest me that I never read before, because they're readily accessible through the libraries. But it's clearly it's an economic decision based on.
But is there a choice that would make you purchase a book? Like, what would make you purchase a book over going to the library?
Oh, I see. You mean the book 3, 5, 10 years old?
Or
whatever it
or a
is.
new book? Or,
Well, no, I don't,
any book?
I don't get new books at the library. That's my point. I don't.
you
I
can't.
don't.
No,
You
no,
can't. I don't wait for them. I don't have the patience to do that.
So are you purchasing books from a
No,
store?
no. I'm doing almost exclusively now through either the Oakland Public Library, with its online catalog is terrific, or the Cal Library. Yeah. I'm just saying I've changed. You wanted input.
Yeah, yeah.
I've changed my reading patterns.
Yeah.
So I don't read new stuff that I read in the reviews in the New York Times. I know
Right.
it's gonna be a 6 month, 6, 9, 12, 18-month wait before I can finally get it at the Rockford Brand.
They take years to age anyway, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Does anybody else have thoughts about that, for what Christine was asking?
I get data, number of volumes sold in the calendar year by all publishers, and even broken down to quarterly and monthly. And so that would tell you something about the market and whether your share is remaining the same or whether you're losing share.
Yeah, I mean, part of the issue, I mean, we've lost share over the last decades. As
When you say
independent
we,
bookstores.
is that the
Independent bookstore, yeah.
bookstores?
I mean, it's hard to tell, right, you know, Borders is closing the bulk, if not all, of their stores. Where are those people going to go? Are they gonna go all online? Are they going to go to independent bookstores? Is there gonna be a surge of independent bookstores 6 months or a year from now? That kind of depends on what people decide to do. You know, some people may feel like, wow, I really, you know, there's a store in Encino, Barnes & Noble, that supposedly closed because of real estate issues. And so within a 30-mile stretch of the valley in Southern California, there's no independent bookstore or chain bookstore. So people are desperate at losing what they perceive as their bookstore, this Barnes & Noble there. Are they going to then, someone rise out of there and open an independent bookstore? Will there be some other chain that arises, or will they all go online? You know, those are all decisions we're all making every day. And those changes that are happening in the industry are happening quicker and quicker, and there's a whole confluence of them right now, which is what makes it particularly challenging for the independent bookstores that have survived a lot of things.
You know, one thing that has for sure been affected is new hardcovers that are just coming out, obviously. We are in this weird position, our product, the most eagerly awaited of our new products that's coming out is immediately sold at, you know, under cost. You know, which doesn't really happen anywhere else. I mean, you can't buy the iPad for, you know, $5 when it first comes out. So that's the chunk that seems like it's really been hit hardest. When you say that's one of the most obvious areas. Yeah. So people are going to have to. So publishers have to get creative about how they think about presenting a new author and a new book. I think to try to meet that challenge and keep all these distribution lines open, which I'm assuming they want to do.
And Dave, to your question also, it's difficult to parse what's economics, what's Borders, what's the iPad, what's those figures. And you know, Amazon has notoriously been less than candid about breaking those out for people. So it's very difficult to determine just what the change in pattern is. I remember in maybe around 2000 or something, a lot more people were going on the internet, you know, going crazy. And you lose people for 3 months, 6 months at a time because they're completely absorbed in the internet. And then they go, oh, wow, that was something. You know, that was a 6-month orgy. And then they started coming back to the bookstore. So it's the same thing, you know, there are a lot of people who are given devices at the holiday season, and then they just try it, and they try it for a few months, and then they hate it, and some people love it, and some people just decide to add it into the mix and are buying a mixture of things. And it's really hard to parse what's happening in that way. So that's one of the reasons this is such a good possibility. People can say what devices they use that, you know, that they're liking. Yeah.
I think there's something though that makes Diesel unique. It's all the events. You know, people see it as a community resource and a place to go, and you know, events like this. So you can never get that online. And you know, a lot of people have changed their buying habits for a lot of reasons, and I think that's why you can't just look at the sales of books. Some of us have retired, some of us are going to the library, but there's a lot of us who still want that book by Louise Erdrich, or, you know, our favorite authors, so we're going to buy it, although I wait till paperback is available.
Yeah.
So if publishers are smart, they'll start bringing out more paperbacks, like right off the bat instead of the hardbacks, and kill fewer trees. And also, just anecdotally, it's interesting to see among all my friends are book lovers. A few of them, one by one, are converting to ebooks and Kindles. But I said, but then you can't loan me that book you love.
You can't forget to return it.
Oh, that's the risk of sharing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Did you mention that there's a recent, change in the pricing of ebooks? And I asked because I bought one shortly after I saw the article in the paper about Google and I came to the site. And I immediately kind of descended into the tar pit of publishing world differences because it was explained to me that there essentially are two groups of publishers. One for which it's an even playing field, everybody can sell their book at this price, and another set who are free to price however they want. And even independent bookstores online have the option in that second category to price books independently. So I'm poking around in there and I'm getting wildly different prices depending on where I am. One book is the same as Amazon, another one is not. Or Google, purchased online. Along with that was my reasoning for getting into ebooks, and I don't particularly like reading ebooks at this point. Maybe when a later generation of readers, e-readers will probably seduce me. But for me right now, it was a matter of maybe reading books, buying books, ebooks, at a lower price that I might not otherwise buy. It's something that I might want to read. I really don't want to spend much money for it, but as an ebook, I might go for that, whereas I wouldn't buy a hardcover or even a
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. There's 8 publishers, including the 6 biggest ones in the country, all have the same pricing across all websites for ebooks.
You're not permitted to discount it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And nobody is
And so
permitted.
that's the level playing field that happened, that was a year ago, right? That it started.
They
And-
but the
But it
Random
really-
House just joined about 2 months ago.
And that was huge for Random House to finally join with the others. So there's, you're right, and yet the bulk of it, hopefully more and more will go in that direction. Yeah.
I tend to use the library.
Yeah.
I have ordered books on Amazon, and I'm part of a community of people who really value independent books and who feel awful about ordering from Amazon. I know we will try to order a book here, occasionally. We don't buy a lot of books from Amazon, but because you're part of this group of sellers and publishers, you don't realize how people like us who want to support independent bookstores don't know. I mean, I didn't know that I could order a book through a website. I mean, I have a smartphone and I have a Kindle on my smartphone, and I read Emma last summer on vacation on my smartphone. And so, I mean, I would love to do that. I mean, I actually could enjoy ebooks. I mean, I could enjoy them. So, I guess my question is, what readers would read your books? Because I want to support the bookstore.
Do you mean what e-readers support?
Yeah,
Everything but a Kindle.
Everything but a Kindle.
The Nook is a little bit of a tiny bit of a workaround. It might be a couple more steps, because the Nook is very much wired to send you to Barnes & Noble if at all humanly possible. And I don't know if you've ever been on a site that's trying desperately to take you somewhere. And that's a little bit the problem with our Google partnership too. If you don't remember to go back to our sites to buy the Google book, and you go to Google, you'll end up buying it from Google.
I see.
So there's still some,
So there's some challenges. So I guess that, I don't know that people realize that there are other different ways they can support independent bookstores. I mean, I come by here, I'll buy something, there, but I don't accumulate books.
Right.
Doesn't make sense for me.
Yeah, well, that's a tricky challenge for independent bookstores to get the message out, because we don't have Amazon's power or money to put the news out.
For a community of book groups, I mean, you could have a site, a Facebook site for East Bay bookstores, independent bookstores, and for maybe to reach out to people who have reading groups. I have a reading group, and those people in the reading group have many of
Yes.
you can sort of get the word out. We try to figure out ways of getting the word out.
Yeah. No, that's very good.
Because
And I probably should say at this point that next Wednesday we're having a little, isn't it Wednesday? We're having ebooks, love them and use them. So we'll be having a little seminar here as a how-to.
Will it be a petting zoo, or are they going to have
As long as you bring pie.
Yes, something I shared at Gaia Bookstore a number of years ago when it was teetering on the brink, and they had several community meetings to discuss sustainability. And what had occurred to me at that time was that I perceive making a decision to purchase my books at independent bookstores as a form of insurance, just like we purchase medical insurance and car insurance and whatever, to ensure that independent bookstores will survive. I've never ordered a book on Amazon, and I am having dire financial difficulties right now, but I just can't do it. There's just something in me that just, I cringe. So it's buying insurance, essentially, and deciding what our priorities are.
Right.
And it's probably a good investment
It really
for
is.
you, because with the recommendations from the booksellers in the independent bookstores, you're more assured of getting something that you would actually enjoy for the money that you spend on
Well,
the book.
there's no question, because the chains view books as product. It could be anything. They could be widgets. They happen to be books. Whereas in an independent bookstore, there's a love and a passion and engagement with the books, with the booksellers.
Well, one of the assets that Diesel has, I think, is the customer base. And certainly I'm always interested in seeing, what are the top how many books at Diesel, what are people think. But I was thinking, I don't know if you're familiar with the website Library Thing, or Goodreads. And for me, since so many books that I read at the library, that's a place where I can have a virtual library, and I can see the actual covers and all the sort of physical things that I like about books. I can't smell them, but still, one thing that has always been really interesting to me is finding out other people who have similar libraries to mine, and what are they reading, and what are they doing, and wanting to read what they're writing about books. I'm wondering if there's some way of leveraging the customers, and I haven't spent much time on the Diesel website, so if it's possible to do this, I apologize, but some way of enabling customers to talk to one another, or to have a way that you can check in about a particular book, leave a comment, or something like that. Setting something up, even to the point of when you buy a book, you get a password or something, and it's join the conversation. The Diesel conversation about whatever book, which will be different from something as huge as Library Thing.
Right.
John, does Diesel have a Facebook site?
Yes.
Yes, no?
I
like that. You got a long way to go.
She's British,
Not for Allison.
British? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Thank you. Have you never been there?
Allison, go there.
We do. And we've actually started at our events, we're getting people's recommendations for books for in-store use, but putting that up on the website would be good too. And the interactive aspect is really good. I don't actually know John Stitch isn't here right now, who's going to be the person explaining ebooks next week, but do you know if there's functionality for that in Not yet.
Have you seen the way City Lights uses their Facebook page? Well, they're very interactive, and they promote events on it, and they solicit people's opinion about what they're reading and things like that.
Yeah, I think we're going to be doing more of that, yeah.
Yeah, but what about those of us who have ideological objections to Facebook?
Yeah.
I will never, don't go there.
And
find us on Twitter. Just don't turn it on. Right, yeah, so don't put everything there, okay?
No, you just find us on Twitter.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
14.
You know, actually, I mean, social media is being touted as, you know, could save everybody, you know, but it's hard to find time. I mean, you know, your staff is busy, and it's a kind of a time suck, and, you know, it's hard to figure out where to put all your, you know, eggs or something.
Well, one thing somebody spoke to me about recently was that it used to be that whenever you went into a cafe in Berkeley or Oakland, there'd be engaging conversation that you could join, or that would be going on around you, and that now it's only devices that you see. And so, to a certain extent, the kind of conversation about public life, you know, or public spaces are going away. And also that means that the word of mouth thing of telling, you know, oh, I love that bookstore, such and such, all of that goes away. And so it's thrown into an online environment, a lot of those kinds of conversations, which also have a tendency to gradually circle around and become a little echo chamber. Which is what
You don't see a book sitting on the cafe table anymore to ask about that.
Yeah, but so the end result is that public spaces like this also then get questioned. You know, how long are they going to be around? People need them, and so actually we've had an increase of people coming to our events lately during the same period that our sales was dropping. So that's, you know, it's interesting because I think people are wanting to get away from the online situation and be out amongst other people, and places like cafes no longer serve that purpose.
So, I mean, it seems like it's a consciousness-raising, PR, behavior change, strategy combination that we need. I mean, when people come to the events, do they realize that the only way to keep those events happening is to buy something while they're here, and not something that costs $2, but something that
Should we
$2
tell them that every time?
Yeah, okay, all right. Anything will do, all right. But, so, and as a public librarian, I deal every day with people that have lost a book or dropped it in a puddle or something, and they have to replace it, and they'll say, oh, I'll get it from Amazon. And I'm saying, no, there's a bookstore about 200 paces down the street. Just go there and bring me something of an equivalent price that's in my catalog. I mean, it's, can you... And they're going, oh, but I could just get it from Amazon. I'm saying, we don't want it from Amazon. We need to say no. You know, you need, and so librarians all over the country, we're doing this all the time. People are either giving us books or replacing books, or they're saying, I really need this book, how can I get it? We, librarians, need to say, if you want a neighborhood, you need to support your independent.
But you know what, in our case, you know, when people lose something, you know, we say, well, you can replace this, you know, it's the same thing. But they are more likely to do that if they can get it on Amazon because they're not paying price. And they're more. And what will happen is, if they can't do that, then they'll pay us the fine. But of course, that goes in our city general fund, and we see that much.
So, but then you have the long conversation that I'm just saying. I mean, some people will say no, but if you don't tell them, if you don't pleasantly have this conversation with them, it's an entree to the conversation about being local, about supporting the commons, about supporting the public space, and all the rest of it. Now, if they only would charge tax on internet transactions, that might happen.
Yeah.
You're honest.
I wanted to say, you said supporting the commons. I'm wondering if we could have a little display at the different libraries about supporting the commons and the whole concept of supporting independent bookstores, because I see, you know, I'm not a purist, as some of you are. I remember when I used to boycott Safeway because of their work against the farm workers.
Yes.
I was very rigid at one time, and then I thought, wait a minute, you know, if I boycott them 80% of the time, that counts. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not saying that people should buy from Amazon 20% of the time. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, if we can tell other people, I'm not going to judge you, I'm not going to tell you you're an awful person if you buy from Amazon. You could just say, hey, if you're going to buy 5 books, why don't you consider buying 3 of them from the independent bookseller?
There actually is a figure that everyone who buys a book from Amazon bought 1 book, just 1 book from an independent store independent stores wouldn't be having the problems they have.
You know what, we should promote that.
I like
Yeah, I
that.
even have a song that goes with it.
It's like the carbon footprint, planting
Yeah.
trees in order to offset, the carbon footprint that you're creating. I really like that.
And getting the word out, when people want to give me, people know I love books.
Yeah.
Well, my sons in the other side of the country are, they'll hop on to Amazon, because I don't think that a lot of people know that they can do the same thing. They can get a gift certificate.
Yeah.
They can get it anywhere in the country. I think if people knew that, they
Well, in
might.
your case, your son could get the book here, couldn't he? You could come and pick it up.
No, one's in Philadelphia, the other's Honolulu. So
We'll take up flimsy excuses somewhere.
Just to follow up, I think one thing that we can all do is to tell people who like us and give us gifts.
Yeah.
That what we really like would be not an Amazon gift certificate, but a Diesel gift certificate. I have my best friend every year gives me a birthday Diesel gift certificate, which is just like the nicest thing in the world. And my brother, when he wants to get me like a book for my birthday or something, he actually calls Diesel. He pays for the book, and then he calls me and says, "Go to Diesel. They have a surprise for you." So, I mean, I think there are all these ways that we can do these things, and they're really easy. But I think we've got to let people know, and Diesel can make sure that you suggest them.
Can I ask a question about sort of long-term sustainability? I mean, I'm looking around the room, and many of us are
Don't say.
are older, and we're not reading as many books on our phones as maybe, say, teenagers are. Does anybody have any suggestions of how we extend that sustainability down to the generations that aren't represented here?
Well, my son is actually in the back reading a regular book, and he doesn't read books.
But that's because you're special.
Yeah. None of his friends, they want more children's books. They want the children's book section here to be bigger, and more books. And they don't, all their parents are trying to reduce their screen time.
Yeah.
They're not going to add reading a book on screen into that time. They're limited to half an hour a day or
We
whatever.
just had a conversation yesterday about this, and there was a survey taken recently, and the young adult market are choosing to read books, and we were talking about it because they've been raised with everything that we've had to learn, and it's this world that is in many ways being forced on them, and so when it comes for them to make a choice, they're actually stepping away, a lot of them, to the books, and also I think it's because it's theirs,
Yes,
as a
no, he
person.
loves,
So the young adult teenage.
I asked because I actually have experience with a lot of teenagers reading on their iPhone.
Yeah.
And not buying books.
Because I don't see any young people in the library, trying to get our electronic books. It's always,
Well, because they can get them easily from the iTunes, right?
But also there was a study about kids books, and the vast majority of kids are not reading ebooks because ebooks are not social. And for kids, especially 12, I think they said 10 to 17, books are social. You read it, you hand it to your friend, and you say, you got to read this. They can't do that with ebooks, and so there are definitely the older kids, more numbers, but still the vast majority, according to a children's study and Falker, are not reading them because they're not social, and books so far are still social pieces of their lives.
Go ahead.
I want to speak on that preemptively first. I think that laying the cards on the table as a small retailer or distributor, Amazon isn't necessarily going after every local community, and that's something that someone who is a smaller fish in the pond can do. A number of ways it can be done. You can buy people move into neighborhoods if you're dealing with the end user directly, probably pretty expensively too, and begin a marketing approach as soon as somebody comes in and enters a neighborhood. I know that's not me. You can geo-target if you have any sort of search engine marketing budget. If someone who has some sort of competence with the internet will also put in their own zip code or their own neighborhood in addition to the book title, because maybe they want it today, or maybe they don't want to deal with Amazon, or maybe they're not home to receive it, and if it's a matter of going a few blocks away or even further, that's a possibility too. And you can also provide incentives as well, but I think part of it has to do with what is the radius of the community that I'm serving. Because I can't have everything I want, but maybe I can have anything I want in terms of the specifics. The other part regarding the social media is I think that this is not unlike the situation where the networks had the monopoly for years and years, and then the cable channels started cropping up, and next thing you know, these MASH record-breaking shows, you never see that again except for the occasional Super Bowl and so forth. The social experience, I think, for many, particularly younger people, the idea of reading a book that's not assigned by their professor is escaping into a world, creating a world and escaping to it. And now I think books are up against social media in general because I can be a 10-year-old kid with my own website, have a whole presence on the various social media areas. I can create my own world even though I have to listen to mom and dad, hopefully if they're two parents, and the school teacher and so forth. So by creating a greater perspective, a greater context than, i.e., here's the author of book A, come see him or her, but aligning those with communities, whether it's cultural communities, other various areas, so that it's not just whether or not you like this book or not, but it has to do with other areas that can be aligned with it, that can broaden things and create a greater sense of brand awareness and brand loyalty, because it's not just about the book, it's not just about the author, it's not even just about the bookstore itself because it's close by or friendly. It's about the various communities I have access to, either because the books opened it up or the people here involved, the distributors or the retailers open up as well, and there's a wider playing field.
No, those are good ideas.
It seems to me that a lot of the problems that the group has talked about tonight are frankly beyond my comprehension and certainly beyond my ability to do anything about them. If e-books are the way of the future, then it'll be like a tsunami over us. So we don't know that. But tomorrow morning you have to open the doors of the store. And in any environment, across all business environments, and I'm a small businessman too, what I'm seeing is, if you're small, you can survive, but you must know who you are, and to whom you appeal, and why. And when you have that thoroughly understood, then you find out how to educate the public that that's what you are and where you are. And I would suggest that you have a great deal of strength to bring you the answer to those questions. But I don't know that you're putting those answers out anywhere.
In what way do you mean? Like to the customers we are to the newsletter, that kind of thing. But as far as, you mean a wide promotional campaign of some sort?
Well, that might well be a part of it. I'm struck by the fact that every time I go by the store and I see the sign that you can get your e-books here, and I've always said, yeah, but not as cheap as someplace else. And that's not true. I'll bet you that there are a lot more people as ignorant as I am, as opposed to as smart as you are on the pricing problem.
So at the cash register, you say, do you want an e-book with that?
Well, there is a cool, there's an idea called bundling. You know, again, it's a creative process from the publisher too. How are they going to, sustain themselves too? I think a lot of us, in spite of the ebook tsunami, still really believe in the printed book. It's a work of art and an object of reverence and all the other things that I believe in anyway. But and also they're attractive and appealing and so on. I don't know where I was. Bundling, thank you. So the idea maybe in the future is that you buy your book and then there's a code somewhere, and for $2 or $3 more you can have the ebook version as well. Cool. And so wouldn't that be cool, right? Wow. And that now you've got the book in your hand, but you can also read it on any of the devices. So I think ideas like that are really powerful, and we're just waiting. They're doing it in the vinyl industry. I'm sorry to bring up vinyl in this context.
To address the tsunami thing, some people are projecting 25, 30%, 50% even of e-books. Books consumed will be read by as e-books. Google thinks that it'll be more like 15% that it'll level out at. And there are lots of reasons why you might think that. Some people, it's just like with movie theaters or anything else, it's not that things end up opposed. It's not like an ebook and a real book are opposed. They can both exist next to each other, and a lot of people, like you were saying, you would try out a book, an ebook at $15 or $10 or whatever, instead of a $25 hardback. Then all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, that's a fantastic book, and then you go buy the actual book. And so there's lots of ways in which that interweaves. As far as the idea that books are going away, that's sort of a false, I think it's a false statement. Whether bookstores can survive the changes is another question, and that's what we're kind of trying to address. So for example, another thing is that people come into the store and check out what the books are, then they go somewhere else and buy it, or they even buy it right there to their device. And so, for example, if you were to look today on the staff recommends, there's QR codes there. So that means somebody can walk in here with their iPhone, they just look at our shelf talker, they click on it, and they download off our website the ebook onto their, and they buy it from our website within the store itself. That's a way in which we're melding the actual bookstore with the virtual bookstore, and the customer ends up paying the same price as they would at Amazon for the book, but they just bought it in the bookstore they saw it in, which is that much closer in, do you know what I mean, to the book. It's much more.
That's really exciting. That's what I was saying. You know, my daughter, who's 29, had a fit when my husband considered getting a Kindle. She absolutely had a fit. And to know that he can buy some other reader and do that here, that would be very exciting for him, you know. And she was gonna be here.
I like her.
She was tired.
Bring her. I'll bring her.
I'm sorry if I missed earlier things, but I'm curious about more about what you just said, because so much of electronics basically eliminate local economies. So that sense of, that's the first thing I've heard of, like the millions of, yay, let's go digital things, besides the fact that, okay, and let's not talk about the digital divide of all the people who can't afford the gadgets, but also who want to support their local economies by not having everything become a big box store and a big box electronic online distributor, assuming that everybody always has constant access to the internet. I mean, I'm a dance teacher. Half the time I am not anywhere near the internet. I am in the corporeal experience of tangible things where people don't write, but they read later after they've had their physical experience. And I definitely drive people to bookstores in order to read more, in order to understand themselves physically, both by having the physical experience but following up with the written word. And local bookstores and art spaces are connected to each other in that local economy way, that online digital stuff is a number of steps removed. I'm thinking of how the sort of survival of bookstores and the partnerships between other local activities. You know, like conversations like this, the word of mouth and local diaspora, local discussion factor is what keeps stores running. The digital exchange doesn't lend itself to that as much, as opposed to real-time corporeal interactions between people who know each other or know each other through friends or find each other in social spaces or academic environments where people are in class or in a room together.
Well, the local economies thing, you didn't, that hadn't really been covered exactly. I mean, we were talking specifically about the store and specifically about indie bookstores, but the bleeding out of local economies and the kind of multiplier effect that local businesses have on local economies, all of that is kind of invisible to most people as they're going through their online experience. And more people are now going, well, you know, this is kind of strange. Or even the sales tax issue with regard to Amazon, who's sort of bullying various states throughout the country about that. People are going, well, you know, my schools are suffering, my roads are suffering, my state is suffering, and why is that? Is that at all linked to the Amazon thing? Well, yes, it is. And so they want to keep the local businesses alive. They want the local Main Street alive, but they're in a digital environment that almost makes that invisible. And so how to get that word of mouth out there, you know, that we've talked about Facebook and other kinds of things, but how to get it into people's minds to support local economies, all local independent businesses, when they're doing online purchasing is a challenge and something that I think everybody's starting to get. You know, hold on.
Yeah, well, you used the word local, and now we're hearing that echoed, and I think, you know, there's been such a push in the last, however many years, 4 or 5 years, thanks to Michael Pollan with this whole notion of eat locally, right? And he's one of the people that's broadcast that. What about read locally? Because local. Where I said, right, locale.
But you don't have buy, it should be read buy local.
But, yeah, I mean, for instance, I don't have an e-reader, but I didn't know, and I'll probably get one at some point down the road, but I didn't know that I could buy e-books through Diesel or Pegasus.
I think you do.
And you can even go to indiebound.org and locate any independent bookstore anywhere in the country by zip code. So if you're ever giving gifts to someone enough, you know, you can do what Beth was talking about, locate a bookstore in the community of somebody you want to give a gift to, find that bookstore and have them call up.
I think of myself as a somewhat savvy book buyer, not that I'm buying tons of them, but, and I'm surprised that I don't know the thing about the e-readers, right? Or
It's pretty new.
Yeah. Don't
And
beat
the other
yourself
thing
up.
is, in terms of buying habits, I don't buy a lot of fiction. I use the library, but if I'm going to buy something, it's something that I'm going to return to, like a book of poetry.
Yeah.
I think one thing that you guys could really publicize more is that it's free shipping. Because I know a lot of people use Amazon. I was just talking to a friend this morning who couldn't be here tonight, but she said that what happens to her is her husband's ordering from Amazon at 10 o'clock at night. And he's like, oh, I'm about to send in an order. Do you want to add anything to the order? And it's so tempting. Because the more you order, the more, I guess the shipping is free over a certain amount. And so I think if you got the word out that there is never any shipping if you order a book through your local bookstore, that would be huge. And it's like, and you pick it, it's such a great,
It's free.
Yeah.
yeah, it's free. Oh, not to mail it to your house, but walk to your store and pick it up. I mean, it's
Although we'll ship it maybe, we'll walk it over.
Delivery.
We're doing a bite.
wow.
We have done it.
With pie?
I make cookies. Why deliver with cookies?
Getting back to the sort of broader marketing of getting it to the store, getting that e-business to the stores, I think maybe you or Amy could better update us on what, if anything, the local trade association and the National Trade Association are doing to help that. I mean, I think that, you know, this is a great partnership with Google, but what better place to try and get the word out than on Google? How many times a day are we all on the Google site? Wouldn't it be nice if there was something there that said that you could buy these things from your local bookstore?
And they don't want to be evil. So
No,
they,
I mean,
they want to be good.
Turns out, for the moment. But actually, bringing up Google, when you were talking earlier about geo-targeting, Google is doing this with a lot of the independent bookstores that you can check and see if they have it in stock. You know, so that if you're dragging through an area with your phone, you could just press a button and find out which bookstore has that book you're looking for.
Hands-free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's that amazing
But so we're
little
on
things.
this point, our inventory is online. If you were searching for it, it could appear on
They're
Google.
keeping all that data to advertise to you later on.
Yeah.
And Google did advertise it a little bit, but yeah, I mean, there could be.
There's certain
There needs
things
to be
that
a broader campaign.
there's certain things that we can't do together is because technically we're competitors. And there are really serious laws about it.
And we're only having this conversation because there's a lawyer in the room.
And if you catch any of us talking about price, you know.
Really? But even like that, you know, I know the local trade association did a big ad
Yeah.
when the border stores closed that said, we're still
Yeah.
here.
Yes.
what about ebooks available here? And list the stores that are doing something along those lines, and what would ABA be able to do on a bigger scale or something like that as well?
Yeah.
I mean, basically, this has to go viral.
Okay.
You know, I mean, really, it would, if we could figure out a way to make it go viral, which you can't figure out, but it could happen.
But it's a full-time social media person.
I mean, one thing is that this is a really large green issue, and one way that, you know, there are all of these people that are doing, kids, young people doing these green things. If they really understood this as a local, you know, create neighborhood, be local, less cardboard, less mail. And one idea is people take these, I took the Berkeley Global Warming Pledge a few years ago. But, and I did stop driving quite as much as I had, which wasn't very much anyway. But then recently, I decided to form a partnership with my daughter, who's 27, we're called Trash Talking Buddies. And we talk about the ways in which every couple of days we talk about like how I resisted getting a cup of coffee in a paper cup. I'm using this to drink the wine out. And so if we could get people to sort of come up with ways to move the bell curve of behavior change into the direction of more local, more real, more green, and with partnerships with each other, like just people right here talk about creative solutions, and this is part of this larger project of how to have the commons, how to have real neighborhoods that survive in the face, and using the electronic stuff as part of it.
You know, speaking of green, I think I read somewhere, and I'd have to look it up, but there was a comparison that hard copy books can actually be better for the environment.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think people don't think that, you know, paperless, you know. But
I've also read the opposite by another guy, so I mean, I think the jury's out. It depends on what side you're on, I think, more than the data right now.
Kate?
I missed the beginning, and I'm a bookstore owner in the country. Call Western in the country. But I get concerned about ebooks being our savior, you know, like the ABA, like really pushing, like all their energy going to ebooks when it is new, the word isn't out there. But I think we've sold 2 ebooks since we started in November or something like that. And we make $2. What do we make? $2.50 a book?
23%.
So,
So
it's not, I don't see it as the thing that's going to keep us afloat. Not that it isn't a revenue, it can't be a revenue stream, certainly in neighborhoods, but I think much more the, you know, that it has to be other things, that people appreciate what we do and will buy books.
But part of the thing is that people are buying ebooks anyway, so if they just bought them through you guys instead of Amazon.
That's right.
Then they realize you are a full service. And they switch their loyalty.
I had to learn this, because I didn't catch it either. I don't care about ebooks, I want people coming here.
Yeah.
This is what I do is here.
Yeah.
And I had to get it really explained.
So am I wrong that it really can help us stay afloat?
I think it helps you keep your customer. Keep your customer happy, and lets them think of you when they do want a paper book, and they don't go to Amazon for that too.
There's somebody in the back.
I think part of it, I have 5 bookstores currently, and part of it, and I bought during the decline of the industry. And so, you know, for me, I have a different perspective because I think just like we got together in this room, I don't know anybody here, but when I read that fellow bookstore owners would be here at that moment, because we're all independents, I don't see you as competitors. I see you as a band of soldiers that we all need to get together, you know, to fight the greater evil, you know, kind of thing. And I think if we just get back to, books are foundational pieces, they're grassroots pieces. And as we're thinking of these high-tech ideas and all that stuff, sometimes it's just about getting back to basics. And if the communities that we serve see us getting together without this competitive attitude, and we have a massive book fair or or something like that, where we choose what books your store will have, what books your store will have, what books my store will have, and we take it to our different communities or areas, just basic things, because my customers, a lot of them, they, you know, go online and that sort of thing, but I got some interns, got a few extra phone lines, we're calling people, we're calling organizations, schools, that's, you know, just the grassroots basics, and it's increased our sales tremendously. We don't, you know, speak Amazon language in my store, even though, you know, I feel like the publishers aren't in the favor of the independents at all, you know, and it's tough when a customer comes in and you have a book that's $14.99 and they you know, pull up their smartphone and they show you that it's $6.99 or something ridiculous like that. So then I have to spell this story on why they should buy a book from us versus, you know, that whole sort of thing. But I think the community wants to see us as friends. You know, they want to see us band together and show our support for one another and for the books. Because it makes no sense if we leave this room and we're all just as segregated as we were when we came in. You know, that's just my little pitch.
Where's your store?
So Western Christian bookstores. I have one in Oakland, Hayward, San Francisco, putting one in Concord. I have one in LA now, and I'm trying to put one in Vacaville. I'm going to keep going. As long as one person buys a book, I can still turn the key to the door. Keep going.
I can say that historically this area, the booksellers really have all sort of worked together. I mean, we've all worked at each other's bookstores.
Actually, Allison actually created a wonderful event that ran for many, many years called Books by the Bay, where all of us booksellers went to various gorgeous, windy locations in San Francisco and sold books.
But it is one of the few businesses that you experience that in, you know, where, you know, you don't have the book, but you'll start calling along the street to see, you know, so, because you want your customer to be happy, right? Yeah. But also, there's a lot of support from, well, just showing the number of booksellers that come.
Can I go back to the local just for a second? Just because the local, it is really important. I was talking or whining to my landlord a few weeks ago about something, and he said, not actually asking him for anything, but just talking about business, he said, why are all my tenants in the buggy whip business? We get this a lot. Buggy whip business, like we're all extinct. And I said, well, if you have a lot of spaces, you're renting to retail stores. Let me just tell you right now, retail stores right now are kind of in the buggy whip business. I mean, there's a great deal of pressure on all kinds of independent businesses on the block. It's really expensive to run a store in this part of the world. It's very expensive to keep good staff. It's, you know, so the pressure's on, and also our society expects a business to take care of their, you know, their employees pretty fully. And I'll just tell you that my medical expenses in 2006 were $49,000, and this year they're going to be $86,000. And my sales have not doubled in 5 years. So there's a lot of pressure right now on the places that make up your business communities that you may not always see. A lot of pressure from creditors, a lot of pressure from vendors who are your creditors. Everybody's like, nobody really knows what's going to happen. So everybody's, you know, so to the extent that you can also take this conversation not just outside of the bookstore, but into the shops and basically the streets near your house that you would like to be lit up and look nice, you should consider widening, you know, that net.
I have a self-serving question, and it's just to do, what would you like to see in the bookstore, in our bookstore? Is there anything that you would like to see different?
No.
Let's open the doors to change. But I was just wondering, you know, I'm not, you know, if anyone says I should leave, I'll just start crying. But you know, is there anything that you think, oh, you know, it'd be nice if?
Okay.
I think this is also a follow-up to both the mention of the library and the mention of children. And I think you've got a fantastic children's book person here. You've got a fantastic staff. They all love the dog that I bring in here.
But maybe expanding the children's section and coordinating with local schools. I remember when the library